BionicDance is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
How do you concisely show an atheist or agnostic that they hold beliefs as well? So a lot of times they just say that you just have beliefs and I don't have those beliefs. But how do you concisely, just in one statement, show them that they actually hold beliefs and that those beliefs are blind faith?
I suppose the point here is that we atheists are hypocrites for criticizing the blind faith of religious people because we have it too. But it always comes off as a statement of, you're just as bad as we are. Probably not the best argument tactic in the world when you really think about it. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers, BionicDance here. It's been a while since I've seen anything from Frank Turek, Dinosaur Hunter, but this one, his arguments for why atheists have blind faith will shoot off into some rather odd places and are mostly arguments from emotion, attempts to shame people into agreeing with him, as you'll see.
Well, you'd have to be on some sort of topic like, do you believe, I might ask them, do you believe there's an immaterial realm, or do you believe everything's just made of molecules? I would just ask that question. If they say everything's just made of molecules, I would ask them, is that statement that you just made of molecules?
2 points. First, he's obviously expecting an either-or answer, that one cannot give an answer that contains nuance. It's an attempt to trap people into saying something they don't actually mean. Personally, I would have said that all evidence points to molecules, that we have no evidence of an immaterial realm, and therefore the logical, if tentative, conclusion is that, yes, molecules are all that exist. Second, why yes, the statement I just made is made of molecules. Brains to consider the matter and reach an answer, vocal cords to vibrate the air in order to create sound to transmit the answer to his ears, which are physical structures which process those airwaves, and his own brain, however little there may be, to interpret that sound into meaning. Every last scrap of it material, made of molecules, no immaterial realm required. That's probably why he wants an either-or answer, to escape that kind of nuance.
Even though they may claim that everything's made of molecules, they don't live like that.
So now, what we know intellectually being out of sync with how we might behave or feel somehow invalidates the objective knowledge we've acquired.
Because they don't think, for example, their spouse or their children are just a bag of chemicals. Right? They think that they're special human beings.
And now here he is thinking for us. And badly. Funny thing, just because something is a, quote, bag of chemicals, doesn't mean we can't value it. And it also doesn't mean that we have to think that there's an immaterial component to what we've come to value.
And they believe in love. In fact, in one of the debates I had with Christopher Hitchens, someone from the audience asked Christopher, what is love? What is it ontologically? In other words, how would you describe love? And Hitchens finally had to admit that, according to him, love was a chemical. That it caused you to act in a certain way towards somebody else. And I said, go home and tell that to your wife. Right? I just got the chemical today, honey. Tomorrow I might not have it.
Like I said at the beginning, he's trying to shame people into agreeing with him. Love is just a chemical? Well, then obviously it has less value than spiritual love. That is what you're really saying. But what is love really? Where does it come from? The evidence would suggest that it comes from the natural tendency to propagate the species. We're attracted to a mate in order to have children, and we stay together to protect them. That this attraction endures beyond copulation is likely a byproduct of that need to keep safe the next generation. That's why we value it. True, that's not very romantic. But if romance eclipses empirical reality, transcends biology, we'd live in a far stranger world than we do now. But even with these unflattering realities, that doesn't make the experience of love any less, nor does acknowledging and enjoying that experience equate to blind faith.
If love is just a chemical, then how can you hold anybody responsible for anything? In fact, if we're not moral creatures that make moral choices, how can we hold anybody morally accountable for everything they do? I mean, Hitler just had bad molecules, right?
Let's suppose, just for a moment, that we forget that morality is subjective, a matter of perspective, that one person's good is another person's don't ever do that again, and vice versa, just for the sake of argument. That said, if Hitler had bad molecules, then it follows that those who oppose him have good ones, that holding him responsible is just as much a product of molecules as his misbehavior. We're not special. We don't transcend our physicality just because our perspective or decisions are different, that we hold them in greater value or consider them good by comparison. This inconsistency of thinking, this elevating oneself over others, however unconsciously, seems to always come up in discussions about the origin of morality, and I find it strange. One other thing I find rather interesting is this discussion, which was supposed to be about whether atheists have blind faith, barely even touched on the topic. That sort of thing makes trusting theists in debate rather difficult and does more to damage their reputation than it helps their case. They're painting themselves as conniving charlatans instead of honest and intellectual debaters. If I might engage in a bit of cynicism, that's nothing new. But is that really what they want? Or is it all they have, and they know it? Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please, think.
Attention citizens, failure to contribute will result in suspended oxygen privileges. Attention citizens, failure to contribute will result in suspended oxygen privileges. Attention citizens.
And remember, if it can't be in your hand, it's all in your head.